Lisbon, Portugal. The Royal Palace, spring of 1819. She stands before the mirror, one hand on her belly, the other gripping a silver crucifix. Her lips tremble in prayer. Courtiers whisper behind her. Doctors nod, not daring to speak the truth. For 15 long years, Queen Maria I of Portugal has clung to a single, desperate belief that the heir she carries will one day emerge. But there is no child, there never was. Her empire watches in silence as their monarch drifts between sanctity and madness, devotion and delusion. Is it grief? Is it faith? Or something far more disturbing? This is no simple tale of royal scandal. It is a haunting descent into obsession, political collapse, and a queen's tragic unraveling. A woman who mistook mourning for motherhood and ruled a kingdom while waiting for a child who would never come. This is the tragic story of faith, madness, and a crown. Lisbon, 1777. The scent of orange blossoms floats through the corridors of the Ribeira Palace, mingling with candle smoke and incense. Behind heavy velvet drapes, a girl prays. Not for power, not for glory, but for peace. She is 25. Her name is Maria Francisca Isabel Josefa Antonia Gertrudes Rita Jona, Princess of Brazil. And today, she becomes Queen of Portugal. Her coronation is not marked by triumph, but by mourning. Her father, King Jose I, has died. The city does not celebrate with parades or fireworks. Instead, Lisbon whispers. The scars of the great earthquake of 1755 still haunt its streets. The wounds of the past are stitched into every stone. And now, those wounds must be carried by her. Maria kneels before the altar, her hands trembling as the crown is placed upon her head. The jewels glitter in the candlelight like frozen tears. Outside, her people wonder. A woman on the throne, alone? But Maria is not alone, not yet. At her side stands her husband, Pedro of Braganza, her uncle. A quiet, serious man, bound to her more by blood than passion. Their marriage was one of duty, not desire. But it is within the palace walls, behind layers of protocol and painted ceilings, that Maria's greatest love is found, her children. Her first son, Jose, the Prince of Beira, is a solemn child. Intelligent, fragile, she watches over him obsessively, fearing every cough, every chill. Her daughters, quiet, obedient, follow her through the palace like silent shadows. She insists on their presence at every mass, every council, every ceremony. To the court, she is devout. To her children, she is divine. And then the visions begin. It starts subtly. A strange heaviness in her chest during prayer. An overwhelming sense of grief when reading scripture. She says she feels God speaking through her, as if divine messages move through the walls of the palace and settle in her bones. The priests do not question her, nor do the doctors. She is the most faithful majesty, Rei Fedelissima. And when, in the middle of a council meeting, she announces she is with child again, her chamberlain freezes. Her ladies-in-waiting glance at one another. She is 37, her husband long dead. No man touches her, but she smiles, resting one pale hand on her stomach. "I can feel him," she whispers. "The boy is strong." A gift from the Holy Spirit. No one dares respond. They call it a divine pregnancy. Whispers echo through Lisbon like falling ash. Some say it is a miracle, others a madness. But the queen insists she can feel the child move within her. She gives up wine. She calls for midwives. She prays with fervor so intense her knees bleed. Against the chapel stone, months pass, no child comes. But Maria is undeterred. She begins to prepare the nursery. She orders tapestries embroidered with cherubs. Cradles are crafted from Brazilian mahogany. She names the unborn heir Sebastião, after the lost king who vanished centuries ago and was said to one day return. I will bring him back. She tells her confessor, he will lead us to salvation. The court doesn't know what to say. Ministers nod. Priests mutter prayers. The people, confused and frightened, grow uneasy. Still she rules. She signs decrees. She listens to petitions. But her decisions become erratic. She pardons criminals accused of blasphemy, then exiles them weeks later. She orders vast donations to churches, monasteries, shrines, anything holy. Gold flows out of the treasury like spilled water. Every month, she insists she is further along. Her belly remains flat. She claims the child is hidden, protected by God until the time is right, that her womb is a sacred temple, invisible to earthly medicine. The doctors, trembling, agree. Behind closed doors, her eldest son, Jose, watches in horror. He begs his mother to listen. He pleads with the court to intervene. But she waves him away with a serene smile. He speaks to me, she says. The baby. His voice is soft but clear. He tells me not to fear, that Portugal will be made whole through him. Outside the palace, Portugal fractures. The Enlightenment has begun to pierce Europe's monarchies like light through stained glass. Revolutionary ideas bloom like weeds. Spain is unstable. France burns. And here, in Lisbon, a queen dreams of a child that doesn't exist, but to question. Hers to question God. And so the lie lives on. The palace of Colus. Silence hangs thick in the air, broken only by the rustle of silk skirts and the steady creak of floorboards beneath gilded shoes. Outside, Lisbon stirs restlessly. Revolution. Echoes from France, from America. But within these palace walls, time has curdled. The queen no longer speaks in court. She whispers to paintings, to statues of saints. She clutches rosaries until her fingers bleed. Her child, the divine boy she insists lives within her, is now 15. 15 years. 15 years of waiting. 15 years of tightening smiles and forced curtsies. Of priests who dare not question, and physicians who speak only in riddles. Some call it phantom pregnancy. Others, hysteria. But in the queen's mind, there's no doubt. He's coming. Every morning, Maria has his rooms aired. Nurses change linens that are never used. Cradles are dusted. The royal wet nurses women, who have long since passed childbearing age, remain employed, waiting. As they have for over a decade, they say nothing. Not one word. Asterisk, asterisk, the queen's belief is law, and what she believes now is that God is testing her. That her body is a vessel not of flesh, but of faith. Her belly, an altar. Her pain, divine. But the truth is uglier. Maria is breaking. She has seen too much death. Her beloved son, Jose, the heir apparent, gone. A sudden illness. Some say smallpox. Some say the heartbreak of watching his mother dissolve. Either way, the grief unmoors her. She locks herself in his chambers for days. When she emerges, she insists he is still alive. That he now lives inside the holy child within her. He is reborn, she says. Stronger, cleansed. Her surviving children avert their eyes. But it is not only her children who suffer. The state itself begins to decay. Courtiers fight in whispers behind her back, scheming for influence. Her ministers carry out policy in her name, but the truth is clear. Portugal is without a ruler. And so, in the shadows of her madness, her second son, João, the unremarkable, Duke of Braganza, is thrust into power. He never asked for it. He never wanted it. They say he preferred books to battles, libraries to courts. He stutters. He avoids confrontation. But João steps forward, not with ambition, but necessity. He becomes Prince Regent, the ruler in all but name. Maria doesn't object. Not because she agrees, but because she no longer understands. By now her delusion is complete. In her chambers, she speaks to the unborn child as if he were already present. She scolds him for mischief, praises him for his silence. At state dinners, she insists a place be set for him. Dignitaries from Spain, England, the Vatican, all forced to toast the invisible prince with shaking hands and tight smiles. And still, she bleeds. Every few months, she claims to feel labor pains. The palace is thrown into chaos. Physicians are summoned. Prayers are chanted. The chapel bells ring, but nothing comes. Only silence. Only Maria, weeping in bed, whispering that God has delayed the birth again. The doctors know better. They whisper behind brocade-covered doors. She is not pregnant. She never was. It is a delusion, a grief too heavy to carry any other way. They call it pseudocyesis. Phantom pregnancy. A condition of the mind so powerful that it can change the body. Swollen bellies, missed periods, morning sickness. All imagined and yet painfully physically real. But in Maria's case, it is something more. Because she is not merely imagining. A child, she is building a world around him. She commissions portraits, a cherubic boy with golden curls and wide, knowing eyes. Artists paint from nothing but her words. He is hung in state galleries, shown to diplomats as Sebastião II. Her priests preach of his divine mission. Her people begin to believe, or pretend they do. And outside, the world burns. In France, the monarchy has fallen. In Spain, Napoleon advances. Portugal stands on the edge of a blade. And at its helm, a queen prays to a child that doesn't exist. But in the quiet corners of Lisbon, among the midwives and seamstresses, the bakers and guards, the whispers begin to shift. What if the queen isn't mad? What if the child is hidden? What if this is a punishment or a prophecy? Myths grow like moss on silence. Some say Maria's child is invisible. Some say he was taken, spirited away by angels or enemies. Some claim they've seen him wandering the palace gardens at night, glowing like a ghost. And the queen? She smiles, serene. He's waiting, she says. He's almost ready. *** winter. The air in Lisbon is bitter, heavy with smoke and fear. Cannons echo across the harbor. French troops, led by Napoleon's generals, march on Portuguese soil. The royal court is in chaos. Ministers flee. The nobility packs jewels into crates. Servants weep as paintings are pulled from the palace walls. The empire, once held together by God and gold, is breaking. ***, and at the heart of it all, the queen, Maria, now in her 70s, does not scream or panic. She does not order troops or sign edicts. She sits in her chamber, rocking gently, humming lullabies to a child no one can see. Her face is pale, her eyes vacant. A carved cradle rests beside her, untouched for years, lined with lace and dried lavender. The boy is sleeping, she murmurs. We must not wake him. But outside her chamber door, her family is preparing to flee. The British Navy has offered the Portuguese court safe passage. A flotilla of ships waits in the harbor, bound for the far-off colony of Brazil. The Prince Regent, João, knows the truth. If they stay, Napoleon will take everything: the court, the treasury, the throne. And so in the middle of the night, under cover of darkness, the royal family evacuates Lisbon. They smuggle thousands of books, crates of porcelain, chests of gold. Priests carry relics. Courtiers carry secrets. But the most fragile cargo is the queen herself. Wrapped in shawls, Maria is wheeled down to the docks. She clutches a doll in one hand and a rolled-up painting of her imagined son in the other. As the ship pulls away from the crumbling city, her gaze never leaves the fading skyline. Lisbon, the city of saints and sorrow, disappears into the fog. She does not cry. She only whispers, "Do not worry. The child comes with us. Rio de Janeiro, 1808. The air is different here. Thicker, tropical. The scent of jasmine and wood smoke clings to everything. Brazil, the jewel of Portugal's empire, is now its capital, not by design, but by necessity. It is the first time a European monarchy has ruled from a colony. And yet, the court tries to pretend nothing has changed. They bring their wigs and velvet, their titles and ceremonies. They host operas and grand banquets in borrowed mansions. But nothing can disguise the truth. Portugal has fallen. And Maria? She continues her silent reign from the shadows. She no longer speaks in public. Her days are spent surrounded by relics and rosaries. Her nurses call her Rainha Santa, the Holy Queen. Locals leave flowers outside the palace gates, not knowing whether to fear her, revere her, or pity her. Children are told not to speak her name aloud. Servants swear she floats through the halls at night, singing lullabies to a ghost. In time, the Brazilian sun does what no court doctor could. It calms her. She becomes quieter, more distant. She stops mentioning the child. The cradle disappears from her chambers. Some think she has forgotten. Others believe she has finally accepted the truth. But no one dares ask. Her madness, once terrifying, becomes myth. She is no longer a monarch, but a symbol of tragedy, of grief, of belief pushed to the edge of delusion. March 20th, 1816. The bells toll softly in Rio's twilight sky. Queen Maria I of Portugal, Brazil, and the Algarves is dead. The priests say she passed peacefully, a rosary in her hands, her final breath, a whispered prayer. But what that prayer was, no one knows. Her body is placed in a coffin carved of Brazilian jacaranda wood, lined with royal blue velvet. It is returned across the sea to Lisbon, where she is buried in the Estrela Basilica, the church she commissioned with her own hands, built in the name of a god she clung to long after she lost everything else. She ruled in name for nearly 4 decades, most of them in silence. And yet, her story would not die. For years after her passing, whispers persisted that the child had been real, but stolen. That the queen had been bewitched. That her madness had been a punishment for sins her kingdom refused to confess. Some said they saw a boy, now grown, standing alone at her funeral, eyes like hers, head bowed low. Of course, it was all fantasy. And yet, so was her reign. History remembers Queen Maria I as many things. The first woman to rule Portugal in her own right. A monarch who escaped Napoleon's grasp. A mother, a widow, a fanatic, a saint. But above all, a woman who waited. Waited for a child who never came. Waited for God to answer. And in her waiting, she left behind a kingdom not of gold or land, but of silence. A kingdom where power bowed to faith, where grief became prophecy, where a cradle stayed empty for 15 long years, and no one dared say it aloud. If stories like this haunt and fascinate you, subscribe to Historias Pacíficas, where we breathe life into history's most forgotten corners. Leave a comment and tell us what you think. Was Maria's madness a symptom of grief or a divine obsession? Don't forget to like, share, and hit the bell, because the past is never truly dead. It's just waiting to be remembered.